So I'm Brianna. I'm a member of the Youth Brigade here in Chicano Park. And thank you for joining us. Thank you. And could you introduce yourself? Introduce yourself, please.
My name is Isabel Enrique Sanchez. I've been involved with Chicano Park, the takeover of Chicano Park, since 1970 when I was 16 years old. And currently I'm serving as the treasurer for the Chicano Park Steering Committee.
Thank you. And of course, like you said, you've been here since Chicano Park has really grew to what it's become. What has your journey looked like? That.
My journey has been a very exciting one. And I feel very blessed. I feel very blessed that I've been able to be on this journey.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want me to speak only in English or can I go English and Spanish?
English and Spanish.
Okay. Mi camino ha sido muy bonito. Mi camino ha sido con mucha felicidad y tristeza, pero ya que estoy grande de edad, ya que soy mayor, yo sé que todo eso es parte de la vida.
Mm-hmm.
La vida es así, para arriba, para abajo. And we have joyous moments and we have sad moments, and that's all part of life. And the thing is to learn to be strong enough to get through the sad times and the hard times,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can continue on to the good times and the positive times. And it's been a struggle for Chicano Park,
Mm-hmm.
coming up on 52 years now. You know, I haven't missed any of the Chicano Park Day commemorations except for one, and that was because my husband, Ramon Chunky Sanchez, was still in the hospital, and they didn't discharge him in time for us to make it to the celebration. But so for 52 years, coming up on 52 years, I've been a part of each Chicano Park Day commemoration, and they are commemorations of a struggle, of a takeover, of a physical takeover, of a physical, spiritual takeover of this sacred land.
Okay. And what drew you to the park?
What drew me to the park was, well, basically my mom and dad drove us to the park. Because I was in high school, I didn't have a driver's license. We were already involved in a lot of the movimiento that was going on in San Diego County, through the arts, through the folclórico that we were teaching, through the baile folclórico en Aztlan, through the Centro Cultural de la Raza, and through the Toltecas in Aztlan. And so when we found out about the takeover of the park and what was going down, then our parents brought us over here, and I remember helping my mom to serve food,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember helping to work the land. And then our group, the Ballet Folklorico en Aztlan, was like the founding folklorico group here at Chicano Park, and we were the first group to perform and to dance here on this sacred land.
Beautiful. Oh my, okay. What do you see for the future of Chicano Park? Since you have this wisdom, of course.
I see for the future, sometimes I worry
Mm-hmm.
because of the ongoing gentrification
Yeah.
that surrounds Chicano Park and the ongoing threat to the community here of that gentrification and the community, the way people are getting pushed out from living here that can afford to live here, and also the commercialization of people trying to commercialize Chicano Park and Barrio Logan and to develop it into what I call an Old Town South, like another turista trap,
Yeah.
which is what we don't want it to be. We don't want it to turn into an Old Town South, to be just another little tourist spot. It really bothers me when I see the all the tourist vans and buses coming by, and people taking pictures, and I'm there and I go, what I have to do, pose? I like wear something in a museum where there are living people here. This is a living history, and this was a struggle, a movement to maintain this sacred land. And it's not just a place where people can come and take pictures. Sure, we welcome people to come take pictures, to come explore, to come and learn the true history of Chicano Park. So, but seeing a lot of the youngsters like yourself, like Lucas and the Youth Brigade and the other people staying involved in Chicano Park, it gives me hope that they will continue with that message of being stewards and protectors of Chicano Park.
Thank you. So, in respect to land back and the liberation for both brown and black people in America, what do you believe is necessary in our next steps towards liberating ourselves with these upcoming generations, as in both the ownership of land and also the connection to culture and the spiritual connection that comes behind being the original stewards of the land?
That's a very important question, and that's why Chicano Park is so important, because it was taking back a little piece of that land that was stolen from us, from all the indigenous people of the Americas, not just the indigenous people of this area, the Kumeyaay, and all of their relations, but also the indigenous people of Mexico, South America, and all the way up, all the native peoples that were the original peoples of these continents. So, and now there is a very strong movement of the reuniting of the condor and the águila, the indigenous tribes, to come back together to retake and re-protect these sacred lands, the indigenous lands, because we see that if we don't take care of Mother Earth and protect Mother Earth, then the future of humanity is at stake, and is the wisdom and the caretaking and the knowledge of the original peoples of these lands that will help to save Mother Earth and all of humanity. And it was because our knowledge was taken away, was hidden, was tried to be destroyed, but they couldn't destroy it. Why? Because we have the inside knowledge, we have the genetic memory of our antepasados that we can maintain and relearn and reteach to help save all of humanity. We're not just talking about our people. No, we're talking about all of humanity, because basically, if we treat each other as good human beings and we respect each other as human beings, then a lot of the problems we have right now wouldn't be existing. Look what's going on right now in the Ukraine. How is that different from the colonization that was brought here to the native peoples of this continent? Well, they didn't have the tanks and all the missiles and all that, but we here saying this is our land and you're not going to take this land away from us. We've been here for thousands of years, and you want to come here and take this away from us, just like what Russia's trying to do right now. So
it's an ongoing fight.
It's an ongoing fight, yes. But I have faith that the younger generations, like your generations, like my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren, one of my little granddaughters, because I gave her the Chicano Park book for her birthday. And I told her, "You taking care of the book?" And she goes, "Yes, Nana." She says, "And I'm going to take care of Chicano Park for you too, Nana," because I always tell them, when I'm not around, you guys got to be here and help take care of Chicano Park for me and for Tata. And all the little kids, they're always singing chunky songs. And they even made a little game of Chicano Park under the bridge. Instead of, they do their hands like that, and they go underneath, under the bridge, Chicano Park. Yeah. So, yeah.
Thank you. Okay. And what advice do you have for Chicanos, young Chicanos, finding their identity and navigating what it means to be Chicano under resistance, right? Because being Chicano is a political statement. It's naturally political.
Right.
So what advice would you give to someone navigating that?
To not be afraid. To not be afraid to call yourself Chicano or Chicana, and not fall into the trap that of social media and mass media that tries to brainwash us into thinking that we have to be Latinos or Latinx or Hispanos, because those terms totally negate our indigenousness, our raíces, indígenas. And so how am I going to negate my mother, which is what was tried to be done with us when the colonizers came, not just with us, but look at all of the Native American schools where they stole the children away from their families and tried to anglicize them, and then when they died, they buried them, and their parents never knew that they had died. Look at all those graves that they found in Canada, and those Indian schools, they exist all over North America, and that's what happened also here with our people, and the Kumeyays here in California and in Southern California. There was no frontera there. The Kumeyays, they lived back and forth, right? And so, and the indígenas, we cross paths all the time, traveling north and traveling south and trading. And I think part of what people are afraid of is the concept of Chicanismo, this concept of being politically and culturally aware, and it being tied to the land. Because if you have true title to the land, or you're the true stewards of the land, how is somebody else going to claim and build all these buildings and all of these societies, but yet it's a false base? It's a false base. You're not really the owners of that land. You're on stolen land. I've heard many Kumeyaay say, you are on unceded Kumeyaay land. Unceded meaning they never signed away their rights to it. They never gave it up. As much like we never said, well, okay.
Yeah, we'll let up on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. And Chicano Park is a symbol of all that. It's a symbol of that struggle.
It is. And like we discussed, it's a political stance, and naturally it makes people uncomfortable, right? And I think we're blessed to have people like you here and guiding the current youth. We're blessed to have people here guiding our current youth like you. And like you said, we're on stolen land. And this reminds me a lot of gentrification. I think a lot of people here in Chicano Park, specifically or in Logan, can agree that the current gentrification going on right now is very reminiscent to colonialism and knowing our history as generations stemming from indigenous people. And we still are indigenous, right? How would you we're gonna cut this. How would you describe the gentrification going on right now?
Well, just the rise in the rents. It's outrageous. All over San Diego, but especially in Barrio Logan and Logan Heights, the rise in the rents, the buying out of long-term residents here and their properties, and then flipping those properties and selling them for a much higher rate, and then none of our people can afford, to purchase
Yeah.
those properties, and it's just sad. It's just sad. My first little casita when I was born was, it used to be Crosby. Now it says Chavez Parkway. That was our first little casita, and that little casita is still there. Thank God. I don't know how much it rents for now, but it's just sad to see that impact on the neighborhood. And part of that also is not respecting the tradition of the people who were here, the people that have long time been here, and that started way back when with the development of the Navy on the bay, and then the freeway that came through and divided the neighborhood even more, and then the Coronado Bridge that knocked down homes and divided the neighborhood even more. So it was like, oh well, we can do this to this community. Who are they? Just a bunch of brown and black people. We can do this to that community. It doesn't matter. Just like what was done when the first colonizers came and said, oh, we can take over these lands.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. We have the right. We have the ability or the right to develop these lands. They are not human. They're subhuman. So we can do whatever we want to.
And this brings me up to my next question. So, do you believe our education today has the tools to grow more consciousness outside this country's colonial history?
Our educational system,
yes,
as it exists today, no. Unfortunately, I don't think it's changed enough since I was in school. And as I was talking earlier, the walkouts, the student walkouts that happened in LA, and many here in San Diego County, we were part of that, myself and my younger sisters, and kids climbing over fences to get out of the school because they were locked in. And it was because the educational system was failing them. It was not teaching them their true history. It was classifying them into classrooms where they were considered mentally challenged, just because they couldn't speak English or they didn't have enough English development. There wasn't any bilingual education. And then nowadays, and I'm hearing the stories, like the story you said earlier about how they're being treated nowadays, and I think, well, why did we fight so? Because I was involved with my kids' bilingual education committees, classes, even the committee that would meet with the superintendent of the school to talk about what our needs were and what was missing, and advocating for our services for our kids. And now I hear that these things are still going on. So it's sad to see that not enough change has been done, And part of the whole movimiento, the Chicano movement, was to teach about our history, to teach about our culture, to teach the languages, to teach the arts, to develop this self-esteem in our students, to help them to succeed in school, in high school and beyond, at all levels, and to become teachers themselves. So hopefully change will happen, and that's part of what we were trying to create also, was our own schools, our own forms of education, because we saw that the traditional schools were not meeting our needs.
No. And they're arguably still not. So in relation to my last question, we just spoke about the colonial system and how it's still prevalent, right? Because it's showing itself through our schools and the curriculum. And do you think that we are able to implement it as a requirement, or we should just let it go? Because currently what's going on is that we'll have an ethnic studies class, and you can sign up for it if you want. You don't have to take it. But in regular history class or whatever, you would not learn that. You would learn history from the white savior angle, right? The winner side, and you don't hear from the people who are oppressed. So do you think that possibly our next steps should be aimed to building and carving out our own education system and our own resilient ways to teach ourselves through our community? And maybe what could we do next?
Well, I think that's an alternative, and that's an alternative that we expressed. I remember we used to have, when the students walked out of the schools down in San Isidro, we had school going on down at the San Isidro Rec Center, and that was one of the things that we did, an alternative basis of education. But I think if there are enough parents and students, advocates, teachers, administrators that come together and advocate for this, I think that it is possible. But people have to be willing to fight for that. To want it. And then also, I think it should be mandatory. But now a lot of the educators and the politicians, they don't want to have critical race theory.
No.
They want to abolish it. They don't want that to be taught at any levels, and so that's part of that backlash, again, to teaching our history and the alternative history, and to hear our voices. So that's something that we're used to. We're used to that backlash. We're used to that racism raising its ugly head in different forms, and so that's something that we have to be really aware of. But I think there's a lot of younger educators, young Chicano educators, that are willing to teach this. It just needs to get implemented.
Yeah.
But
definitely.
most important thing is the parents have to demand it, just like we demanded back in the day, for bilingual education, for multicultural education, and if you need to bring in your own people to do the in-service, to do the training, there are so many culturally aware people that could do that and train the teachers. We used to do that at the Centro Cultural. We used to bring teachers in and do in-service training with them, so they could take this cultura back to their classroom and implement it with their students. So it's a possibility, but people have to be willing to do it, from the top to the bottom, from the bottom to the top. Yeah. And the sad thing is, Chicanos and Chicanas are so much in the majority now, but this is why I see the whole misconcept of the Latinizing us and trying to think, oh, we're Latino, we're from that Anglo-Saxon background is coming in, because the more you can commercialize people, the more that you can commodify that.
It's digestible for the white audience.
Right, and then also for us, because then you don't get the full picture. You don't see the relationship between the land and the indigenismo and your identity, right?
Yeah.
You're accepted on a certain level, right? If you come buy these products because we're advertising to Latinos, oh yeah, we're going to accept you, all right. We're going to take your green dollars, all right. But you start talking about true identity and who really owns this land.
And liberation.
And true liberation and true evolution. Oh, no, you're too radical. No. Chicano, that's passé. They're all dead. They're gone. They're not existing. But like I tell people, as long as I'm alive, as long as my grandchildren are alive and my great-grandchildren, the Chicano movement is not dead.
So you, of course, brought over baile folclórico, as you explained. What has been the best seed you believe may now be growing in relation to danza?
The best seed? Oh, seeing all these different groups and different people, them now grown and their children dancing, or else them creating new groups, and just that flourishing all over, not just in San Diego, but in San Diego County, but all over the Southwest. And it was part of the way we did it. It was part of the Chicano movement, the way of our teaching, the way of participating in whatever events were going on, rallies, marches, meetings, UFW gatherings. It was fundraisers. Oh my God, fundraisers all the time. But in a sad part of that is that it's kind of morphed, just like a lot of other things, where a lot of the groups, instead of keeping the raíces to the origins of it being a part of the Chicano movement, of being a part of like a political movement or an activist movement, is become more of a show movement,
Tourist,
yeah, more of a show movement, more of doing it just for that aspect, rather than having the deeper meaning behind it.
Yeah.
As a way of teaching people, as a way of, okay, we're using this art form, just like all these other art forms, we're using this art form to help teach you, to help develop a consciousness and an awareness of who you are and what needs to be done, what struggles need to be fought, because there's a lot of struggles. So that's one negative part that I've seen has happened. But the positive part that I've seen is that the tradiciones have continued, and especially the danza has continued, the danza azteca, and the other forms of danza that have come to Chicano Park. And one thing I saw when we first did those pasos here on this sacred land, I said this last year, is I felt like we were creating a portal to the past, to connect us to the past and the tradiciones of the past, the danza of the past, because the pasos de la danza are incorporated into the mestizo folklorico dances, okay? Because that was a way of maintaining those traditions and that history, because with the conquista and the colonization, the indigenous dances, the indigenous drums, the indigenous ways were being pushed away. They were being destroyed. They were prohibited. People were killed for doing that, for maintaining those traditions. Just like with the Native Americans in North America, with the people doing the ghost dances and all of the other traditional dances. So a way of maintaining that was to incorporate those danzas, those pasos, that música into the bailes mestizos, as a way of maintaining those and treating those and teaching those. And then when we had the danza azteca come from Mexico, with Florencio Yescas, that just opened it up even more, but I always felt like we opened up a portal to that past, to those pasos of the past. And so that all the different groups that have come from all over to perform here at Chicano Park, and not just Chicano Park, but everywhere, they have all come, that portal opened up that door to them, where they heard the drum and they followed the beat of the drum to come, to share their danza here. And all danza is, the folklorico, the danza, it is a movement of energía, right? And if you listen to the beat of your heart,
it's the same pace.
It's the same thing. You find that. You listen to that drum beat,
Oh my God. Okay, and to conclude, what's a touching story or experience you had with a student of your baile folklorico?
Oh God, there's so many of them. One of the most touching stories I have is with one of our students, and then he became a master professor in the Chula Vista School District, Carlos Santoyo.
Uh-huh.
And he taught many, many students with the Chula Vista School District, the high schools, Chula Vista High School, Sweetwater, Hilltop. I don't know if you ever had any classes with him, but he's retired
No,
now.
yeah.
But have you heard of him?
Yeah, I have friends who.
Yeah, he's a
attend the
master,
programs,
master folklorista, master maestro. But when he first came to dance with us, he was dancing in his combat boots. And he was traumatized by the Vietnam War. And I remember, though, when he was dance on that wooden floor with his combat boots, the biggest smile on his face. And it was just, oh, God, he was so happy and so full of energy, so full of life, you know. And he, I have so much respect for him, you know, and that, I say, it's one of our little success stories, because he was one of my partners, you know, and then he came and started dancing with us, and he was involved in the takeover of Chicano Park. He was involved in everything that we were involved in, you know. And then he went on to teach countless other students and keep that tradition alive, and trying to teach them to that same heart and mind and body concept, that it's all interwoven, it's all intertwined, you know. The whatever movimiento you do, if it's with music or dance or whatever, you need to use it in a positive way to make a positive change. So that's one of the strongest memories I'll ever have. And then the other one is also teaching my husband to dance too. They used to call him La Pelotita because he was so light on his feet. His compadres, he would dance the lingo lingo, and people were amazed because he's chunky, and he wasn't that chunky then, you know, but he was a really good dancer. And then one of my favorite things was when we did the Cuadro de la Revolución, which was a really unique cuadro that we reenacted, and that picture up there reminds me of the Adelitas. And he would sing, and then he'd go dance with me, and then he'd go sing, and then he was part of that too. But when we would perform that, we would make grown women and grown men cry, because we would always end it, y que sigue la revolución.
Wow. Thank you for joining us. This was a very enlightening and beautiful experience. I think I'll definitely go to sleep thinking about and reflecting, and it's an honor to meet you today and to be here with other Chicanos, or people who are navigating Chicano identity and trying to learn from us and who we are. Thank you for joining us, and I hope we get to see more of you and learn from you.
Thank you for asking me. And thank you for your wonderful questions. Lots of insight.
Thank you.